Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
This is an
Hello.
awesome opportunity, Josh. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to answer a bunch of fan questions with us here today from the Reddit, from the Discord, and from true fans of Queens.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't always love interview things, but I like this because it's from the kids, you know.
The kids.
Well, I think I'm like old enough now I could say the kids and it's probably like accurate.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get into it. I think Dave Grohl's got the first one.
All right. So the real Dave Grohl. We've got a lot of questions here, so we want to thank you for coming, and also the audience, the subreddit, the Discord for giving us so much material to work with. Now, a lot of things the audience wants to know, and just burning question on their minds. Tell us where the jacket's from.
The jacket. Yeah, I really love that jacket too, actually. You know, Einstein would wear the same thing all the time just to solve that problem. You know, the jacket, there's this guy named Terry. I don't know what his last name is, and there's another girl called Dana Pink, and I've done stuff with Dana before, and her and Terry made this jacket, and I think I told him like I need because I'm a bit of a greaser myself, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also, you know, I'm from the Southwest, and from obviously I'm from Mojave and Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Joshua Tree, and I said, can you just put all that together, And it says so. Yeah, wow, the jacket. That's the first question. Um, yeah, it's a pretty cool jacket, right?
Total fan favorite.
Really? That's so crazy.
The subject of much
Lots of
speculation.
conversation about it online for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was made for me specifically, but maybe we should make them. I don't know. But maybe.
First audience question. The most upvoted one when we asked for audience questions from the list, and it comes from the gently named Mother F. Cuker 69. I'm not sure what you were trying to spell there, but why does somebody so tall continually choose to play shows in claustrophobic underground settings?
Yeah, that's a good question because I actually I are claustrophobic. Um, so that's a good question. We played the salt mine, which is something that should come out someday. Someday that will come out too. And the elevator was so tiny, and I was losing it. And I don't want to play tiny places like that. Um, and I'm not sure I understood how low the roof was at the catacombs at the time. I had some struggles. I had to stop and sort of breathe breathe a few times in the catacombs because I was like, oh, it's too small, it's too small. But I'm willing to put aside my own fears and things like that in order to do something that I am passionate about. So both the salt mine and the catacombs were a struggle at times for me. Um, Maybe I need to play in a forest or something next time.
For That's awesome.
All right. Next question. You've always been a fan of artists like Bjork, Lady Gaga, Scissor Sisters. How does listening to music outside of the like traditional rock guy canon change the way you approach songwriting? And are there any new artists or groups from the recent pop music renaissance you enjoy and want to turn Queen's fans onto?
Huh. Well, I just I if you take Bjork as an example, it's so interesting to watch. She's such like an artistic whirling dervish. It's so interesting to watch her I think that when I really like music, I get in a trance-like state paying attention to it. And it's so easy to get in a trance watching Bjork, or like I love Kylie Minogue. You know, like
Yeah.
And you know, I think in the case of the Scissor Sisters, it's just like party music, and I like to go dance, and so things like that make it, that music makes it so simple to chase down those little joys, like going dancing. And sometimes you go out to a bar or something, and it's like I never really play nothing which you can dance to, and
Yeah.
so I think, and I also think that because I've played what I guess is rock music for so long, I kind of do rock music how I would like to hear it. So I don't listen to as much rock music as maybe someone might think, you know.
Okay.
And I also think that I've long ago stopped paying attention to what genre it's in, because I feel like that's just, genre is something that if you work at a record store, you need to know what section to put it in.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's important for what you're listening to or what I'm listening to. I don't need it to be. I don't need to know what genre it's in. You know, so I like something. I like bands that have a specific quirk to them. I think the bands that you listed here, like Bjork and Lady Gaga, Sister Sisters, like have a quirk to them. I don't listen to as much Lady Gaga as this question suggests, but I do. I like
well,
some of her stuff is really actually
the only
cool.
reason I asked was the Joanne collaboration with
Sure.
you and
Yeah.
Mark Ronson.
Well, that's something kind of different, because that's almost like I like going where I feel like I'm not supposed to go, and I like to create and perform things where I feel like I would not be normally invited. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, working with Nikki Lane too. It's like, oh, well, okay, I've never dipped my toe in the country well before either. So I just think that those sort of strange bedfellows make for something interesting.
For sure.
There's a band I love so much called Broncho, and they just do rock music so differently, and they have such a quirk to them. And so I'm looking for hooky quirk all the time, you know.
For sure.
I'm going to combine two questions from our Reddit here, one from MsArtyPartyPants and one from
What a great name.
That's a great name. When Whippoorwill. So how did you convince Paris officials to let you record in the catacombs? And what was it like down there? And specifically, the fans want to know, what did it smell like?
The interesting thing about the smell there, I'll start there, because it's the most interesting part of that question. The smell at times reminded me of like rides in Disneyland, like a little bit like Pirates of the Caribbean. And is it? Can I ask a separate question to the group and just in here and to you guys too?
Yeah.
Do you guys say Pirates of the Caribbean? But whenever I'm talking about the Caribbean, I say the Caribbean. But for some reason, for Disneyland, I say Pirates of the Caribbean. And does anyone know, how do you say it?
Oh, that's a tomato thing, I think.
Yeah, Caribbean.
Yeah.
Did you say Caribbean too?
I say Caribbean. I wasn't aware that there was a
Caribbean
debate over Caribbean.
What do you say? What do you say? Caribbean? All right, that's fine. Yeah, so it sort of smelled at times that way because they're pumping in oxygen and the air is wet.
Okay.
So the smell has almost a thickness to it. The air has a thickness to it.
Like a Space Mountain kind of thing?
Sorry, say again?
Like a Space Mountain kind of thing?
A little bit, yeah. And I say Pirates of the Caribbean because there's water in that ride. And so it changes it adds this sort of that wet smell. It's not moldy or mildewy. It's actually smells thick in there. Yeah. And that pumped in air is so purposeful. It adds this a smell dimension that's not normal. As far as convincing Parisian officials, that was really complicated. We have had the luxury of playing a show called Album of the Week in Paris, and it was a really long running show, running since I believe the early 70s, and you simply play your album from start to finish on the telly there, and I loved that show because it was so much. Can you play your album or not? And some people can't, you know. And there was a longtime producer there who's really was the guy who played Cupid for the Parisian officials. We hit so many dead ends for so many years, and I would think about giving up, and then I was like, well, let's try someone else, or maybe those people got fired now because so many years had passed. You know? I mean, that was actually a discussion, and but his name is Stéphane Saunier, and in the end, it was his push and using his contacts from television, because I know that when they first were like, well, who's going to be playing in the Catacombs? Who do you want to be playing? Well, I know that when they Googled us at first, they were like, no fucking way, no way. And it was the very first time. It was after I'd been in like a little bit of trouble. Sometimes I get in trouble, and so it was like that was the first thing that came up was like a fist fight in England or something. It was and it was like not this person, not this band, but it was his contacts and his ability to sort of speak both languages, not French and English, but speak the language of what they needed to hear. And just being a good communicator, he sort of convinced them to take a deeper look. And
that is phenomenal. That's like a real journey that you went on just to get to where you are in that performance.
Well, it's funny because I'm not sure I ever thought it would happen. I just thought there's no reason for me to stop trying. And, in all honesty, the first time I'd heard of the Catacombs was in a book when I was about 8 or 9 years old in history class. And it's not like I thought, oh, I should start a band and play the Catacombs, but I just thought, oh, I'll go there someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I tried to go to the Catacombs, I can't remember what year it was. It was about 18, 19, maybe 20 years ago. And when the line was so long, it was like, well, how do I skip this line? Which is a very entitled, it's kind of a dickish question, if I'm honest, like, but that the luxury, the beautiful side of playing in a band is that it was like, maybe we could play in there. And so I decided never to go into the Catacombs until so that the first time I went in the Catacombs, it would be to do this.
Yeah.
I wanted to wait so that excitement would be real, and that sort of first date reaction would be real. I get really hung up on like, oh, I want it to be, an honest take of this, but I'm glad I waited.
Thanks. Thank you for that.
That was probably too long of an answer.
So Dave's up next.
Yeah, Dave.
Oh, Dave's having some tech issues. So I'll skip over his question and go to my next one here. So this one comes from someone named Cavfinder, and I think it's CAV, not like a baby cow.
Oh, it's probably a cataphile person.
Yeah. Hey, how did you go about choosing the songs for the set? You're so deliberate in the choices that you make artistically. So how did you choose those songs for the set?
The closer we got to the Catacombs, and we really didn't choose the songs till a few days before, because I was so used to it always going away. That it wasn't, and we really didn't get 100% confirmation till a few weeks before. and then I started not to feel well, and then I started really having these existential thoughts about this situation that you find yourself in, and I started really ruminating, staying up late at night. I could not sleep, thinking about the catacombs, and then I started saying, if I was in there, if I was one of the set of bones in there, what would I want to hear? It's from these people are from hundreds of years ago. What would they want to hear? What would the subject matter? And it really became about choosing something that the subject matter would be respectful and sort of like trying to make it so that it was a gift for them.
Right. Yeah.
And so that became like songs about family, songs about acceptance, songs about the moments right before you experience some great difficulty and the moments after that difficulty has passed. Like all conflict has a beginning, a middle, and it does end at some point. And so we have some music that operates in this subject matter. So the first thing right out of the gate was I'm going to play Villains of Circumstance, because it's so much about wanting to go home and family, and sometimes when I'm on tour, I feel like I'm window shopping other people's lives. You see people on the other side of the glass having dinner, and you're kind of by yourself, and it makes you think of what you've left behind. So I started thinking of what would I want to hear if I was one of the bones that's in the catacombs, and I'd want to hear like what would translate to somebody that's been in there for hundreds of years. It seemed like it would have been strange to play No One Knows there or something, or like to be flip and like, here's a song for the dead. That seems so easy, but that also seems a bit like, that idea seems a bit hit with autism a little, that just doesn't, it seems too on the nose, so
there's so many beautiful lyrics in your work there that resonates so much in that show.
So I was talking over you. What'd you say? There's
so many beautiful lyrics in the work that you presented, in the songs that you chose, that resonate so well in there. It's obvious intentional choices, but even more so when you're doing Suture Up Your Future, and you sing the lyric, I don't care if it hurts, just so long as it's real. And that seems to sum up a huge part of that performance. Yeah,
I mean, the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is when you care about something, I'm looking for some kind of signs along the road that tell me I'm going in the right direction. And there's a bit of intuition and a bit of trusting yourself. You experience these difficulties on the way to doing something like this. And even though you experience these roadblocks, these difficulties, you trust that they're momentary, and that you still made the right decision, so you can keep moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it dawned on me, very much after the fact, that it was like, the concept was to strip the songs to their absolute bare bones. And then it was like, yeah, but we're playing in front of these people that have been stripped to their absolute bare bones. And, that little bit of intuition, I'm glad that we're listening to that intuition, because those are little signs that tell me that this is the right decision. We strip everything down to bare bones. We'll be playing in front of bare bones. Okay, that makes sense. So keep walking forward in that direction.
You made the performance both moving and deeply respectful at the same time. And really resonated with people.
Thank you. Well, I think it's more ironic that lyric is in Suture Up Your Future, because I thought to myself, I've been wanting to do this for so long, and in some ways, ever since I first heard about the catacombs, I've been like, it's been this little Mount Everest that I've wanted to climb for so long, you know. And then, you know, it's this resting place for, and it makes you face your own mortality. And I hadn't, if you'd have told me that I would be facing that myself when I had to walk down the steps and go in there, I would say the chances of that are zero. I mean, what are the chances that that would be the situation that was occurring? You know, those chances are so slight, you know. But I took it as a sign that that meant that this was meant to be, and that we were in the right place and we were doing the right thing, you know. Those that not feeling well was a confirmation that it should move forward, you know.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's just when you see the performance and you see the back to the behind the scenes things, you see how serious you and the rest of the band and everyone involved approached this. Even that little remark about candles, saying I don't want anything appearing ritualistic here. It was all about the music and all about the performance and all about that moment. And you seemed to be so into it, and that drew everyone else that's watching it all around the world right now into that moment with you.
Yeah, but you can see where something like that might, you could, you know, some of these moments are really delicate, and if you overthink them and over touch them, you break them, you know.
Yeah.
And then they can't be fixed, you know, and or it's not in its original, it's lost that thing. And you know, you don't want to make a mistake and have something. Wouldn't it be cheesy if there was some kind of like ritualistic overtone? It'd just be like really missing the point, you know? And it would be sort of like kicking sand in the face of it. It really felt genuinely heavy to be in the presence of that many people, because you'll be that person too, you know.
Right.
And I was having to deal with the fact that it was like maybe sooner than than I want to be, you know, but it was forcing me to have to pay attention and sort of read the room. And it was forcing me to ask these little questions. But I'm really thankful for that, because I think it made it better. I think it was meant to be. I think it was supposed to happen like that. And you know, there were a lot of people asking me to not move forward. And I get that. And it was done with love and respect, but it was like, yeah, well, the answer is no. Like, who cares if it hurts for a while? It's only a little while longer, you know? And like, in the reach for something that you think will be great and that you think could be classic, like that's like a very small price to pay, you know.
We all are incredibly glad that you decided to go forward with this. So thank you so much. Dave is back.
Hi, Dave.
Hello.
The other thing that comes up too is like, if you quit, then what am I supposed to do? What would I do if I, you know, what do? You like make Who Wants Coffee? You know, it's like, I'm not sure what, if you quit just because it hurts, it's like what are you supposed to do? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that reward factor.
Well, yeah. If you want something, things that are good are difficult.
Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't be good.
Yeah, and my old man was always like, quitting on yourself is difficult the first time, but it's easy every time after that. And I just think of things like, yeah, it hurts, but so what? Look where we are. Look what happened.
Yeah.
So, totally fucking worth it, you know. You know, totally worth it. Can I ask one favor? In my truck, there's those thins. I'm trying to quit smoking, guys.
You're good.
Go ahead.
All
Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all good.
Sorry about that.
So we have question 5 from the creatively named Spleens of the Coneage, which is Troy holds the title of the gothest motherfucker in the band.
So
So as
true.
a fellow gothy motherfucker, I just need to know how excited he was to get down there. Rumor has it, and you can confirm if this is true, that the tour actually ended because Troy burst into 100 bats and he couldn't be retrieved after the taping. And that's her own rumor, but she has strong suspicions, and she hopes you're feeling much better.
Oh, I fucking love this person. She's great. Spleens of the Coneage. Me like you. Yeah, I mean, trying to get Troy back together is like herding bats.
Yeah.
Troy is the gothest motherfucker, and like, there's a lot of closet goths, and I'm a bit of a like, I just got a thing for goth. But I must say, Troy was like, "This is great." he, he. I think this was, Troy and I have been around each other for a long time.
Mhm.
And when I tried to go to the catacombs, Troy was there, This was his goth dream. If I'd have walked in there and he was hanging upside down by his ankles, I wouldn't have flinched. I would not have flinched in the slightest. And one of the greatest parts about traveling with someone for so long is when you get to do so many things. Sometimes it takes a lot to shock somebody. But
Right.
having Troy look around like this, and then look at me and go, just getting that confirmation from Troy, that type of look, priceless.
For sure. We have question 7 from sample text T_T. And this is a question I was very eager to pick because it's something I've been wondering for a while as well. Hey Josh, you and Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains are my 2 guitar heroes. Have you 2 met at all? Do you have any stories?
I do know Jerry. He's a really good guy, and I've been going through this Alice in Chains thing myself lately. Like I've sort of like just turned around and sat down in a pool of Alice in Chains lately.
That's
because and really come to like, I liked them back in the day, but I think I was like, I think I was just kind of a arrogant little shit too. I think I didn't want to admit it sometimes,
yeah.
and like, because you're making your own things and you're trying to, and but I always liked them. But in the last, I would say 3 months, I've listened to so much Alice in Chains.
Interesting.
It's so good. Lane Staley's voice, the guitar playing, the way these harmonies work.
Right, that's what set them apart for me. Is, I mean, there were a lot of bands back then doing that whole like kind of like more depressing kind of Black Sabbath thing, but it was Lane and Jerry and the way their vocals kind of mixed. And Lane was really creative. He'd go high, he'd go low, and then Jerry would come at a certain point. Like the songwriting is what sets them apart for me. They're really clever.
For sure, and it's so clear that Jerry went to music school or knows like theory or things that I just don't.
Yeah.
Know. Because the way those harmonies are weaved together is so seductive.
Yeah.
It's so fucking witchy, and like I love it so much. I've really like fallen into a deep well, like a young boy falls in a well, and it's not water, it's Alice in Chains. I'm sort of drowning in it lately. I keep looking over at Hillary. I've had a come to Alice moment here. Because then what I started to do was I started to watch footage of them playing, and I had seen them twice back in the day, and but but never really sifted through old footage. And there's one sound check that they did on Lollapalooza, which I just recently watched, and it was of the song Wood.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And it's so insane. Lane's voice is so, then I started that dovetail into watching people cover that song. It's sort of like watching someone cover Smells Like Teen Spirit, where you're like, don't do that. Don't do it. You can't sing it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
There are certain things you just don't cover. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to do Bob Marley, Led Zeppelin, and Jimi Hendrix. That's like, just don't do any of that stuff. But I do know Jerry. He's a really good poker player.
Oh.
Like an actually a good poker player.
Okay.
And I quite enjoy running into them on tour. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any stories per se that are juicy enough to drip all over you, but I really like them as a band, and I quite like him as a person too.
For sure. And I mean, obviously there's the connection with Mark as well.
Sure. I have stories about that, but none that I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not like P. Diddy things or something, but they're just they're just like, there's those times, I think in particular are shrouded in, like, it's a dark vibe for some of that.
Well,
he struggles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What am I saying? I don't know.
Oh, you're good.
I talk. I'm sorry about that.
No, I talk a lot too. So perfect. Paul?
So next question here. This one actually comes from me. So I'm curious about this. Queens, and you in particular, take a very methodical approach to recording into your gear. We actually see a clip of that in the behind the scenes where you're talking about the sound in one particular area where you're recording. So can you share with us what some of the gear-related challenges were that you experienced when you performed in the Catacombs?
Well, I think specifically for the Catacombs, there weren't really any gear-related challenges because I felt completely off the hook. You can't plug anything in down there. And so it immediately eradicated the headaches of, I think I knew for years that we would play there acoustically even before I found out that there's nowhere to plug anything, and they don't want you to. I was told a black metal band almost performed in there. When they found out that they couldn't plug anything in, they were like, "Go to hell," or whatever, something about hell, which you think would be a compliment for black metal, but that's not important now. Knowing that we were going to perform acoustically allowed everything to be. Let me distract for a second. Troy and Mikey and I played at a benefit show at the Canyon Club here in LA, and we played it so quietly, and it sounded so cool because there was so much nothing. We were surrounded by so much nothing, and it really stuck in my mind that the less that was there, the more intense the reveal of the things which are left behind, and so really started ruminating, and that was last year, before, only months before the Catacombs, and so it started being like, how much can we actually take away? Because I think sometimes acoustic guitar can be uninteresting in these settings, and so it's like, well, what if acoustic guitar is really just sort of ticky-tacky, like Johnny Cash or early Elvis recordings? You just hear it go tick, tick, tick. It's not as much, it's not so at the forefront of these things, and I think the difficulties in recording were that everything had to be battery powered, but that ended up being a blessing too, because what it did is it freed us of being attached to cables.
Right.
So I'm wearing a battery pack and a mic tucked in here, and that's the vocal mic, except for QotSA, where we were allowed to use, we were able to use an RCA ribbon mic. But what that meant all of a sudden is that everyone could move, and that create, again, it's like following your intuition. It's like, if we're not tied to anything, I can actually walk around here, and I can actually, we can change the setting as a song is happening, and that these sort of problems that start as problems, they really become your greatest problem becomes your greatest asset. It's just depends on the way you look at it.
It sounds like it was more liberating than it was.
Yeah, I mean, I like to create a plan and have this linear thought and have an idea that is enough of a scaffolding, enough of a skeleton to get you started, and enough. If you have enough of that skeleton, that scaffolding, then I'm always like, cool. Then it tips the scales where I can let go and feel reckless and accept that this is what's going on. And I think when I've had problems in my life, it's because I'm vacillating between those two things too much, but I think being in the catacombs and being on battery powered things, and the fact that there wasn't a lot of gear to deal with, it was just what you do instead, was really freeing.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw back to Dave.
Awesome. Now, one thing you've talked a lot about is the diversity in the Queen's fan base. At the Pittsburgh show, I remember you referred to it as a group of individuals. How does it feel to create music that continues to find new fans, a lot of whom weren't even born like when you guys started out? And how much do you feel like the band continuing to explore new and uncharted artistic territory like Alive in the Catacombs has contributed to this?
Well, I think one of the biggest, speaking of Philly, one of the biggest influences on
Pittsburgh.
Oh, sorry. Well, speaking of Philly, there's a band from near Philly, New Hope, New Jersey, called Ween, and Ween is one of the biggest influences on how the Queens came to be. Caius toured with Ween, and people thought that was how strange that was.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't strange to Ween, and it wasn't strange to Caius, because the point is that you would be yourself and play any style of music as long as you were being yourself doing it. And so when it came time to try to start something, one of the few detractions I had, of the things that detracted me from Caius, is that we accidentally painted ourselves into a sonic corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to be able to play anything that I thought was good, no matter what that was, and that's what I mean by diversity. I don't mean it in
right, like
an old school
checklist way.
and that you weren't like saying we're metal, we're country, we're goth, we're this, but that actually that your music could somehow just pull the outcasts from each one of those cliques, and that you would have this fucking hometown buffet of really interesting, cool people, and that it's almost like saying, like, I don't want all of you, I just want some of you, I just want you.
Yeah.
And you can't really curate your audience, which is fine. I'm not trying to go overboard in doing that, but I always hoped that our willingness to not conform to a style would be its own fishing lure. That would be a distraction, that someone would say, I don't normally listen to something like this. You say that first if you want, but you're still here with us,
Right.
Because I love it when I love the goth girls in the front row. I love the, I love seeing, I've seen so many grandparents taking their grandkids to our shows that I'm almost like, is this a weird subgenre or something? like it. I like when it's all mixed up and all the watercolors are smeared together like that. And because that's why I listen to music, you know. I would love to be in a band that sounded like a compilation. And I think that makes me naturally, I mean, that's why Queens is called Queens of the Stone Age. You know, back when this band started, that name offended certain types of people. And I thought, well, this is a great start. We haven't even played yet, you know. And so I think if we play, the more that we play like a mixtape, the more the audience will reflect and be their own mixtape of types of people, but they'll be unified in the one fact that they're open to whatever, you know, and that's always been important to me, is that, yeah, sometimes we play loud and heavy, and then sometimes we play acoustic here, and sometimes that it's always rotating, and that the only thing I know is whatever we've done, I can't do that again. I can't do
For
that.
sure.
So we're going to try and squeeze in a bunch of fan questions here, Josh. We're going to try to give you the firing line. Quick questions and see where we can get. So this one is from TBG 1996. Do you believe in spirits, ghosts, and souls?
I really want to, you know. I've had a couple strange experiences that are probably too long to go into this now, but I really want to. I'm not really afraid of things like that, because I don't know. I'm just not. I'm more curious, you know. Like if I'm asleep and I wake up and then the door moves a little, I'm more prone to look at it and be like, huh, and then fall back asleep, you know.
Nice.
So I don't really know. But I really hope so. I'm someone who just wants to believe. I have a romantic vision of things like that, you know.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the soul is different than a ghost or a spirit, so that's a totally separate question.
Good.
Yeah. What was the best part of, and I might butcher this pronunciation, so if anyone here is French, I apologize, but what was the best part of working with Disco Blogathek? What made you guys choose them specifically, and are there any other concert films from them that you would recommend to the Queen's fan base at large?
Well, you know, it was really from speaking with them, because everyone has a resume, and we felt we were making a request that was different than what would be on someone's resume. Like our goal is to try to do something that feels a little bit undone. And so you wouldn't have something on your resume that resembled this, you know?
Yeah.
And so we talked to a few different, you know, I guess production companies, you know, and they were open to work without a net. Like we didn't have firm plans. It was like, when we go down there, we'll need to see. And so it was a bit like collaborating in the same way you'd play music and I guess sort of jam with somebody, you know. You know, what we did have was a really good artistic shorthand. We were kind of using the same glossary, and when we're talking with them, instead of being confronted with problems, they got excited, you know. You'd say, you know, we were talking, we'll have to use battery powered, but I think that opens up this possibility. And instead of poo-pooing something, they were
working
like,
with it.
They were like, oh yeah, that would be. So, you know, it really is trying to find someone to work with that moves at the speed of excitement and moves at the speed of inspiration, you know.
For sure.
They had that excitement about them.
So Josh, in France, and this one comes from Baby Duck 2573, so from one baby duck to another.
Yeah,
in France, the
2000.
catacombs are considered cursed. So that's why many French people don't dare to visit them. So since that concert, since that performance, have you experienced any strange things, or I guess I should say anything stranger than normal for a rock star?
You know, I'm someone that treats like if you're trying to curse me, it better work, because then when it's done, then I get my chance to retort. You know, I look forward to sort of breaking laws and breaking social norms, and you know, I think of things like a curse as just another way to control you. So I always look at that as like, that place is cursed. Well, let's go over there. You know, it sounds like a great place to start. You know, that being said, if I was in Egypt and there was curses on the wall, I might slow my roll and ask a few questions.
Thank you.
The truth is, the catacombs are made with love. Nobody moves 6 million, you know, souls and their remains and stacks them with such respect and care, unless they have a reverence and a love. So I cannot see the catacombs being cursed. It's just not possible to me.
Nice. Thank you.
Question 13. You and Bill Burr are obviously longtime friends, and he's been making headlines recently for a variety of reasons. And a lot of people have remarked about how his wit has a newfound sense of sincerity to it. And my question is, Queens are obviously a band that are known for challenging their listeners. Do you find that element of the music has been changed or refined in any way as you've grown older?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've always enjoyed pushing buttons, you know. I fingering the button is one of my favorite things on the planet. And, you know, when I was younger and just cockier, I suppose, it's like I didn't know that you know, you get your buttons fingered back at some point. You know, life is crazy. And but that exchange, you know, I love Bill because he's another angry redhead trying to figure it out. And you know, like you know, I'm getting a lot of looks over here, but it's like, this is how I talk. I don't know. I have nothing else to give but myself, and I know that Bill is the same way. That's why we get along. Like, Bill is going to be himself. He's going to give you the most honest answer he can, and if you don't like it, I suppose you can crumple it up and shove it up your ass. You know what I mean? And I think that's okay. You know, you can't make everyone happy. And I love that Bill understands this. You know, he wants to make you happy, but if you can't be happy, I guess you should turn on the machine that starts the process of you going to fuck yourself. and I think that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
So I've got one here from NosesInRosesForever. What are your favorite board games and winning strategies? And whose idea was the ball pit at the Queen's Coliseum in Toronto?
I like a ball pit because it's disgusting. And I also like dunk tanks. I don't know if anyone else. I just like the idea of someone talking trash sitting over a freezing pool of water, and you get to throw stuff. I love board games. I love the classics. And I like some of the weird off-kilter classics like Stratego, and you know, hell, I'm playing Chutes and Ladders and Candyland and stuff like that. But there's a bunch of new games. Like, who doesn't like Cards Against Humanity or the
Absolutely
apples to apples, right? But there's these new games which are really good too. Well, also like Mojang. What is it? I call it Boing. I call it Boing Doing. But
Mahjong.
House, yeah, play that at my house a lot with the kids, and but there are these new games. There's one where you put this thing in your mouth that sort of splays it open like you're at the dentist, and you try and you say these phrases, and people try to guess them. What's it called?
Mouthful.
Nice Google. That was really quick. You're good at this. I like things that I like things that where you're reduced to being ridiculous for a second. I think that's how you get to know people when you
Nice.
stop trying to like put on airs and then you shove something in your mouth instead. And there's another game. Maybe you can Google this one too, which is a game where they take a phrase like you know, and they write it sort of phonetically wrong, and it's so good. It's so funny. Yeah, I just when the power goes out of my house, I always rejoice.
Incoherent.
Incoherent. Yeah, that shit is good. Yeah. Yeah.
Up next, we have a question from a beloved figure in the Queens of the Stone Age community. He goes by many names. Joe Shit the Ragman, Holgavid.
Oh my
But
God.
we know him, we love him. We call him HurdyG. His question is, there are a lot of bones and the cat combs, so what is your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, well, that's cool. That's a cool question. Joe Shit, the Ragman. That's a good question. I frequent the natural history museums of this country when I'm on tour. It's a pastime. Like
Well-
the chances of when we're playing, if you go to a natural history museum, there's a solid chance I'll be there.
Pittsburgh, right? There's the Carnegie.
Sorry, say again.
In Pittsburgh, because I brought it up earlier, there's the Carnegie, right? That's huge.
There is, and it's huge. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I mean, you start to get to know them. I've been to lots of these like 3 or 4 times now, and I mean, it's easy to love a T-Rex, but I'm kind of a Triceratops guy, or an Ankylosaurus, because it's just got this just wrecking ball at the end. Yeah, I think it's just nice to be awed by something like that. Often if I'm having a rough morning, I say things to myself like, thank God praying mantis aren't 5 feet tall. Like that, it could be worse. You know what I mean?
It could be worse.
Yeah.
It's so impossible to get to the car and go to work if that were the case, And when you stand in front of some of these things, you're like, I'm glad I wasn't around during the time. Although, if you had a time machine, what age would you go to? I'd probably see some dinosaurs real quick. But what would you, real quick, boys?
That's a good question.
Well, as a Canadian, it's got to be Albertosaurus for me, just because of the name. So there you go.
Oh, national pride. Nice.
Well, we're talking time machine. Can it go forward or backward? Is it one direction exclusively?
Let's just go back. Yeah, let's just be in one direction for a moment. The band.
Shit, you're putting me on the spot here.
I know you're kind of blowing it. Let's just you can go to many things. Just what would one?
Okay, I've got it. 1992. See Alice in Chains. That's my
nice.
Yeah.
Here I was like wanting to watch the pyramids being built, and
well,
92, one out for Dave there.
So it's not all down to one. I like that would be one of them.
Yeah,
I like that would be one of them, because I might also go see Hendrix Band of Gypsies on New Year's Eve. At the Far East. So I think it's good to have a music one in there.
Yeah.
So Josh, we promised we would ask. We promised the subreddit we would ask, and inquiring minds want to know. It was asked by Farm Marionberry 4657. So are there any plans for another desert sessions anytime soon?
Yes, absolutely. I
The
don't.
subreddit just exploded. That's fantastic.
I don't see a reason to ever stop that. And one of the things where I kick myself was like waiting too long between the last one. So, as soon as there's a tight window, wow, that sounded way hotter than I thought it would. As soon as there's like a window of time to do that, I will jump through it.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Now the film features a lot of fan favorite songs that don't get played live often, which I think surprised a lot of people. How did it feel to dust off some of these deep cuts, like running up your joke, or I
Joke.
got them confused, running joke and suture up your future after 16 years of not playing them, and then making new arrangements for them all on top of that?
It was actually really inspiring, and you know, we keep trying to add things in, but we realize we have a lot of songs, you know, and you start to say like, why are so many of these have dust on them? So I think in what we're about to do, you're going to start hearing things that are going to be surprising, because it'll be like, really, you're doing that, you know. Sometimes you're just not paying attention, you know, and you're like, well, okay, well, this set list is 6-7 songs different than last night's. That's a lot, but it's a good it was a good reminder of how deep we should be digging in. So we're gonna be digging in a lot over the summer, and also, you know, the idea of taking a song and saying, okay, it's written this way, but if you play a game with yourself, we say, okay, you cannot do it in this way. So take the same song and rewrite it, reimagine it, rethink it as if this version is off limits. And, you know, so we're actually starting to talk about doing a tour that's that way, that's inspired by the Catacombs, that's taking songs and saying, okay, can't do it like the original for the most part, go. So
yeah, that's great. That's like literally the next question in the list here. We're going to ask you, like, we know there's the End is Nero tour dates coming up. But you just said you'd consider touring, or you might be touring behind Alive in the Catacombs in some sort of, is it going to be like an intimate acoustic show? Oh, and we also heard there may be a vinyl release of the Alive in the Catacombs show. What can you tell us about those?
there is a vinyl release, and
Should we show them?
yeah. Do you want to see it real quick?
Love to see it.
It's actually fucking beautiful. It's
Look at that.
like, it's all gold leaf.
Wow.
There's this booklet and yeah, it's I'm quite proud of it, actually. It's really, it's very beautiful. The guy Jason Noto from with this company Morning Breath, we work with him a lot. He did a lot of Desert Session stuff. He did the one that won an Emmy or whatever the fuck it was.
Awesome.
You know,
Grammy.
a Grammy. Sorry. Oh my fucking god.
I said Oscar.
Oh my god. It won a fucking Emmy. I won a Grammy. And he's just really talented and really easy to work with, and it's really beautiful. Yeah, so that's going to come out.
That's great. And you'll tour behind it. There'll be an Alive in the Catacombs tour, or an acoustic tour.
That's what we're talking. I mean, again, in the spirit of like, yeah, we're going to play loud, and we often have played acoustically, but this has triggered something about redoing, breaking the pieces apart and then putting them back together in a different manner. So actually, after this, that's one of the things we're going to sit and talk about, is what would that look like, and because you're just chasing things you think are exciting, and that seems exciting to do too.
Well, the fans will find that phenomenal, I am certain.
Yeah, I mean, I would think in the spirit of going where we're not supposed to go, part of this talk that we've started having is about going places which are quite fine.
Mm.
And like play dress up. Maybe the audience should dress up. I mean,
you had us come out in togas once before. I'm sure if you just say we will follow up and see what we can do to make the show even that much better. I know that Dave's got another question here, and this one's about another instrument.
Wouldn't it be cool though if everyone was all dressed up for no reason?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I'm already booking my tuxedo rental as we
Yeah, that's nice.
Especially if it's like, yeah, we'll do it your way. Like if it's a t-shirt with tuxedo in front, I'm happy with that too. And or if it's tan and taupe, or like a blue ruffle, like I don't.
But I'll get like a really weird bow tie.
Yeah, and like, don't even get me started about goth girls getting all dressed up. Like,
yeah. We've got another one from Antair267. Speaking of going outside your comfort zone, you're known mostly as a guitarist, but you've done amazing bass work for Queens, Eagles of Death Metal, Desert Sessions, and notably on the fake Dave Grohl Sound City song Mantra. How do you approach playing the bass guitar?
I love playing bass. That's like my secret dry hump instrument. because I like playing what would be traditional bass, you know, boom, 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 boom. This sort of inspired sort of from a 50s and 60s style of playing bass. And I find the bass to be so enjoyable. And in another life, I was the bass player of One Direction or something. You know, I love being in Eagles of Death Metal because I get to do all these other things that, yeah, it's just nice to, to switch hats and try something else, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So this next question comes from Equal Competition 5239.
Equal
The
competition.
poems that you shared on Instagram were so beautiful. Would you consider releasing a volume of your poetry like Mark Lanigan did?
I've thought about it a lot, actually. I write a lot of poetry. And whenever I get sick, and my voice drops down low, I record myself reading this poetry, which probably looks weird from the outside, being sick and just reading poetry. But yeah, I thought about it a lot, you know. I mean, again, that's another avenue that I haven't done, you know. And I will say that, like, when things happen to you and you're especially if you get sick or something like that, and it's particularly life-threatening for a sec, you really start saying, like, I haven't done enough, you know. I haven't, how much time is there? So I think I've been asking myself that a lot lately. I feel like I haven't done enough. So I really would like to get back to work.
Now, we started this interview off with a question the fan base has been dying to hear, and we're going to do another one. No, it's about something way more important that we've been wondering a long time, and that is, does Josh like SpongeBob?
Yeah, I fucking love SpongeBob. Gary, come home.
Well, I mean, Ween.
Sometimes I listen to that song, Gary, Come Home, when I'm alone in the car.
Oh.
Like when it comes up on my
playlist.
It comes up at random on my playlist, I just crank that shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like SpongeBob.
So the fans, especially Stone Age Moose, want to know: peanut butter, crunchy or smooth?
Crunchy.
Crunchy all the way?
Yeah, I'm nuts.
Coming up on the end of the interview here, we got a couple more questions. Now this one is, you've cited growing up in the desert and the need to kind of make your own fun as one of the things that pushed you towards becoming a musician in the first place. Now, obviously, a lot of people live in a very different world nowadays, and given the rise of social media and the comparatively, I guess, loud nature of the world today, is there any advice you have for new musicians?
You know, sometimes people ask me why I don't do social media and like why I don't, like, I'm constantly not, like, I guess doing some weird, sometimes I feel like social media is just like some extended version of Cribs or something. Like, but I just don't, I like the mystique of, you know, and I like the art, and sometimes all this stuff feels really desperate to me, where it's just like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I don't really, you know, my advice is, like, I don't really think it's important for you guys to look at me. It's the art that matters, you know?
For certain.
And so I think, you know, I've always said before, you have to do this for yourself, because you can't predict what's going to happen, and you don't get to be in control of things like that. And so, you know, when it comes to making records, you know, we go in the studio and we don't leave until we really love what we're doing, all of us guys, you know. And because we really love what we've made, you know, someone can turn it into a coaster if they want. And that's okay too, you know. It's okay, and because we're happy with what that is, because you made something you really care about. And so for me, all of this comes down to just really caring about what you're doing, so that nothing can get between you and what you've made, and that's good enough, you know. Um, you know, I think social media sometimes that need for attention is about fame, and I just don't know that much about that, you know. And that's not, God forbid, you know, if you really want fame, God forbid you should get it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's important if you're making music, and it's even tougher to be can you imagine being in a band right now? It's just starting out. Like, the obstacles are far greater than they ever were.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, there's so much music and so many bands and so many things. It's like trying to find a needle in a stack of needles, your favorite needle, you know? And
Well, there's kind of the fun of like the local aspect of it, though, because streaming has crowded out all the, you know, names that would have gotten big maybe like 10 years ago. But you go to a bar and see like a bunch of local bands playing, and there's that kind of intimate aspect to it as well. Kind of like
I think
generator parties.
Yeah, I also think that, you know, when you're doing it because you really care about it, you're happy with whatever it is. You know, I know it's wanting to make this the thing you do for, you know, your life, and the thing that supports you is a good thing and a difficult thing. But I also think of music as like bowling. Like, you don't need to be good at it to enjoy it. You know,
Yeah.
like you can. I suck at bowling, but I fucking love it. You know, I don't. You know, I often say, like, if you expect anything from music, you expect too much. You know, it's supposed to give you that immediate reward, and that's what it does. It speaks in a way that is, when it's difficult to say something or know how to say something, it's so much easier to play it. It's such a wonderful language and a wonderful medium, and it's never wrong. And so I think when your expectation is to participate in that stuff, you will be happy. You will thank yourself for doing it. It's such an outlet, you know. Like, I don't have a fucking therapist. I just do this instead, you know. It's like and so the things I get from it are so substantial. The parts that dovetail into social media and those things, they're just not as important, you know. I mean, we put out records, and I like to create a story and a thing, and it's cool to figure out how to put out records. That's part of what I get to do, because I'm still doing this, you know. But it's not. It's less important. It's the making of the thing is what's important. So I'm always like, just you know, when you do it for yourself, and if you want to do well and make music part of your life, your chances of doing well by loving what you're doing and putting, you know, when we make a record, we go till we're depleted. we don't stop till the tank is empty, you know. And I think those things have been what has helped me. And so I guess that would be my advice too, is like, go till you're depleted, run till your lungs burn in this way, you know. So yeah,
For sure.
That really dovetails really, really well into the final question we have for you, Josh. And again, thank you from both of us for the time that you
yeah,
spent.
thank you. I'm sorry I was
Absolutely.
late, man. Sorry.
Final question we've got is that at the very end of the Alive in the Catacombs video, we can hear you singing something that's credited as Insignificant Other at the end of the video. So is that new Queen's material? Will we be getting a new album in the near future?
Would I do something like that?
You just said you love making albums.
Totally. But I said I love pushing buttons even more.
You do.
Boink.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for taking all this time with us here today and
For
giving
sure.
the time to answer all the
Thanks.
fans.
Thank you to everyone who sent in a question.
Yeah.
Where would I be without you? Where would the rest of us boys be without you? Thank you so much for all your support. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We all look forward to seeing you on stage in whatever venue we're closest to, and we'll all be there for you.
I'll be there too.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.